Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming. Sister Sajidah, can you hear me? And are you okay? Are you fine?
Yes, I can hear you.
Great.
I'm just checking to see if my presentation is moving. Can
Feel
you see
free.
the different slides?
Yes, yes.
Yes, okay,
Very
Alhamdulillah.
nice. Very nice slides. MashaAllah. MashaAllah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, brothers and sisters, or sisters and brothers, uh, it is so we can start with our excellent and very important workshop today, which is about essay writing. I remember that last week we had something about paragraph writing, writing well organized paragraphs, which was one step towards writing a good essay. Inshallah, Ms. Sajida will impress you today, inshallah, by talking about planning, structure, and organization of essay writing. And you know Ms. Sajida very well, and she has already presented a lot of excellent workshops before. She's actually interested in curriculum planning, academic writing, evaluation, and professional development. I leave the floor for Sister Sajida. Enjoy it. Thank you again for coming and for your participation and interaction. The floor is yours, Sister Sajida. Enjoy it. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And I welcome everyone on this wonderful evening that you've taken the time to join us in this presentation that I have prepared for you. I'm sure you have wonderful ideas that you can share with me while we're doing it. And it will add to hopefully, to the richness of the presentation. And hopefully we go back away from this presentation, taking some new ideas, I hope, inshallah. So as you can see, the title of my presentation is Essay Writing, Planning, Structure, and Organization. I will try to go through all these three different components while I'm doing the presentation. There will be a little bit of overlapping in the presentation, but it's all integrated. So you will see how it falls into place while we're doing it. So basically, before we even start, we need to know what is an essay. I'm sure all of you attending this presentation today are very well aware, and you know very well what an essay is. And many of you must be teaching different forms of essay writing. An essay is a piece of writing. It could have 5 or more paragraphs, depending upon the level in which it is being written or being taught, and the demand of the question or the instructions given. It is about one topic that has several main points. So it is definitely under one umbrella, one topic, but there are many main points that can be covered and that should be covered while the essay is being written to make it more interesting and to make it give it a more variety of points that will be integrated into the main topic. The main points are introduced in the introductory paragraph, of course, so straight away the reader should know what you're talking about. The title and the introductory paragraph will take you into a pathway of which direction the essay is headed towards. It's supported by the body paragraphs, so the body paragraphs will give you more information about the topic, and it will tell you more details with probably examples, more evidence, and the conclusion comes in the last paragraph. So then that is a summing up and winding up of the different points. Using an academic writing style when you write an essay is very important. You have to choose the right words, set out your ideas and your arguments, and it should be very coherent, accessible, and written in a well-evidenced manner. That means there should be enough evidence given to support each argument and to support each idea. So the flow of it should be very smooth. It should not be jerky or jumpy. It should be following a smooth flow of ideas. So William Zinsner said, writing is thinking on paper. And I think that is very apt because while you're writing, you do a lot of thinking. And all of that thinking then comes out onto the paper and it is organized and put into the various paragraphs that you will finally present. So first of all, you need to understand the question to find focus. So reading the question is of prime importance. A little bit of time should be given to reading it and understanding the question. So what is the question asking of me? What type of essay am I supposed to be writing? What is my topic of the essay? And how do I stay focused on this topic? Then you begin to think around the focus. So again, you give yourself a little while for your brain to get accustomed, to get oriented upon the right track, and to think about the focus of the essay. You start reading around the focus, you read around it, you think about it, and you maybe get some different ideas if you're doing research. You start organizing your ideas slowly, putting it down on paper, maybe organizing it at this moment. It may be just very roughly written, not very well organized. And then you begin to write the first draft. Now, in the first draft, you'll possibly get a little better idea of how to organize your ideas. You know which ideas go into the first paragraph, which ones go into the second, and so on. And then eventually you will revise and proofread for formatting and for language. So all of this will then be put on paper before you do the final steps, which we will touch upon later. A plan helps you to put your ideas into a form which gives a clear direction for your reading. So having a plan in mind is very important. If you feel putting down a plan makes it more clearer, then good for you. You can go for that. Everyone has a different style and way of writing. For some people, just thinking about it gives them a clearer idea. For some people, putting it down in points gives them a clearer idea. So brainstorming is very important. Once you have written your ideas up into a plan, you're beginning to give a structure to the essay writing process in order to make your argument more coherent. So once you start writing, things come into shape. You get a pretty good idea of how everything should be put into place, which paragraphs, which ideas need to go to, and how you're going to organize them step by step. And at this stage, you might even surprise yourself by discovering you know more about the subject matter than you thought, because when you initially looked at the topic, maybe you thought, okay, I don't know very much about this subject, but I'll try. But as you start writing, it says over here, you do begin to surprise yourself and you seem to know more about it. And this can really help to boost your confidence and help you to write much better. So a very basic outline I've given over here: introduction, main body, conclusion, and references. So going on to the basic structure of your essay, definitely you begin with your introduction. You introduce the subject and come straight away to the point. So it's better not to beat about the bush, not to go around the topic too much, because the reader is going to lose interest. Also, you don't know if the reader will keep reading if he loses interest in the subject. So you need to get straight to the point. In the body, you will expose the real power of your writing, because your main ideas, your main points are going to come over here with the evidence and with the supporting details. So you support your pieces with examples, with more detailed information. This backs up your points and builds up a very strong background for your essay. And when you come to the conclusion, you begin by restating your thesis. So you have to reiterate or restate what you started out with. But this doesn't mean that you repeat word for word your introduction. So how do you do this? There's a very clever way in which you can do this. You can rewrite your introduction in just different words, in a different form. And gradually you can become more broad and general also. The essay outline with the different paragraphs that you can write. So in your introduction, you orientate the reader just to review what we've been doing so far. You identify your focus and your purpose. You outline the scope so that the reader has a very clear idea of the direction that you're going in, and you state your thesis. So you state the importance of your topic, and you take the reader directly, you plunge him into the topic idea. Your body then could have, over here, it just says 3 paragraphs, but as I told you before, it could vary from between 2 to 3 paragraphs to 5 or 6 paragraphs. Each paragraph, it's very important to have a topic sentence. So the topic sentence then tells you the focus of that particular paragraph. And then you have supporting details that will take up the topic sentence, will explain the topic sentence. And excuse me, I think someone's mic is on. If you could turn off the mic, please. Yes, thank you so much. So the topic sentence tells you about the main idea of that particular paragraph. Then you have the supporting details, which will support the topic sentence. And then you have the concluding sentence of each paragraph. Now, the concluding sentence will kind of bring the ideas of that particular paragraph only to a close. So the second paragraph will follow the same format, topic sentence, supporting details, and a concluding sentence. And the third paragraph, again, the same format, and so on, if you're going to have more paragraphs. So very important to introduce it with a topic sentence, to support it with details, and to conclude by giving a summing up of only that paragraph, so that the reader knows then that in the next paragraph, you're going on to a new topic in that paragraph, but still related to the main topic. In conclusion, like I said before, you restate your thesis, so you rewrite it or you reword it, and then you summarize the argument that you presented. Now, there are different ways of summarizing it, which I will touch upon later. What are the different types of essays that we usually write or teach in our classrooms? They can be descriptive type essays, narrative, cause and effect, compare and contrast, process essay, an expository essay, and a persuasive or argumentative essay. Now, I would welcome feedback on this right now. If you could unmute yourself and you could tell me what some of these are, and please make sure to turn off your mic after you finish speaking. So let's start with the first one. What is a descriptive essay? Very easy. I think everyone will know this. Any answers?
Maybe it explaining an idea or a subject.
Right, right. So it describes an idea, describes a subject, describes an event, tells you how something happened. So that's excellent. That's a wonderful answer. Narrative basically comes from the word narrate.
Tells a story of some sort. It could be fictional, but it's more likely a non-fictional story about something that has happened in your life or someone else's.
Exactly.
And it has time stamps on it.
Exactly.
It's progressive.
Right. Thank you so much. Yes, a narrative will narrate. So it would be like a story, fictional, non-fictional, and it has time order signals, transitional signals, and it will take you from the beginning to the end to tell you about what a narrative event was. Cause and effect, I think the words itself give you an idea. Something happens and there's an effect because of that. So cause and effect essay will be dwelling on those two main factors, and it's up to you how you're going to divide it. Of course, ideally, it should be balanced. So if you're giving 2 paragraphs to cause, it should be 2 paragraphs to effect, if you can do it that way. If not, you should at least make it like 2 paragraphs of cause and maybe a longer paragraph of effect. That would balance it out. Compare and contrast. Again, these 2 words give a good idea of what's going to happen. You're going to compare something. Maybe it would be 2 things, preferably, and contrast them. So you're going to give me the similarities as well as the differences. A process essay. Any ideas about that? What would be a process essay? Any answers? Would anybody like to tell me?
Like steps.
Exactly.
Or something.
Right, right. A process is definitely steps of something. So you take it step by step from one step to another. And a very good example of this would be like writing a recipe. So you take the person step by step and you tell them how to make something or how to cook something. An expository essay is usually one that investigates an idea and it evaluates evidence to expound that idea. So it sets forth an argument concerning an idea in a very clear and concise way. It could be a magazine article, it could be a scientific report. So that's what that particular essay would be about. And last, let's dwell on persuasive or argumentative essay. And this, again, the word gives away the idea of what would be behind this. So I would welcome any answers on this. Persuasive, what's a persuasive essay or an argumentative essay? Anyone from the audience would like to tell us?
Uses logic and reasons?
Yes, yes, definitely. Reasoning, logic, to persuade the person reading it to your side of the argument or to argue something which you believe is right. So these are generally the most different types of essays that we teach or we dwell upon, but beyond this, there could be more. When writing an essay, we have to consider audience and purpose. It's very, very important. So we introduce and use multiple examples to provide sufficient evidence to present the idea to the audience. So we have to make sure, so is our audience, are they teenagers? Are they adults, young adults? Are they older people? So keeping that in mind is very, very important in the way we project and write our essay. So of course, one that is aimed at a younger audience could use possibly a little more simple language, but really not necessary. If it's a higher ability audience, some of them who have very good aptitude, then you could use words that are longer and more meaningful. And of course, if you have adults, you can use, much more complicated words. So use straightforward, clear examples for an audience that may be unfamiliar with the topic. Make sure that you're keeping it straightforward and simple and very clear so that you get the matter across to the audience. But if it's an audience that is familiar with the topic, then you can use more complex examples. For instance, if it's an engineering essay and you're writing it for young engineers, they already know a lot of the engineering terminology, then you can use a lot of the complicated terminology and you know that they're going to understand. Unless you're going to use something, a term that you think is not very familiar, then you need to explain that. So let's start with the introduction. The introductory paragraph is the first paragraph in the essay. It usually contains two parts: a general statement, which attracts the reader's attention. Very, very important to do this. You must attract a reader's attention, because if your beginning is not interesting, then you have lost your reader right from the beginning. So to get them hooked and to keep them interested, your introduction should be very interesting. And then the rest of the essay should be as equally interesting to be able to keep them interested in whatever you're doing. So whatever you're writing, sorry. Then there should be a thesis statement, which gives the main idea, names the topic, gives the idea of the content, and it suggests the writer's point of view, usually in the last sentence of the paragraph. So this one will state the overall plan of your essay. So this is what your introduction should mostly be about. It should state the overall plan. So right in the beginning, the reader should know where you're headed. Like I told you before, the orientation should be very clear. It should not cause any confusion, because if it causes confusion, then like I said before, just as much as an interesting beginning is important, confusion is going to make your reader lose his focus and his interest. Types of introduction can be varied. I've given you two common ones over here. There is something called a funnel introduction. After 2 or 3 general statements, the last sentence states what the paragraph or what the essay will be about. So it's like zooming in with a telephoto lens. So you started off generally, and then you kind of zoomed in and gave the exact idea of what your essay is going to be doing. So the focus has become sharper and very clear in a funnel introduction towards the end. But the attention-getting introduction will start with something very dramatic. It could be even funny. It could be surprising facts that you think or you know quite well, the reader may not know. It could be statistics that are going to shock the reader. It could also be a historical background that could hook the reader onto the topic of your essay. So I've tried to give a question over here and asked you, what is this introduction? Is it funnel introduction or an attention-getting introduction? So the first one, it was the worst trip I ever took. I will never go there again. And to have a healthy life, eating healthy and exercising regularly is important. Now, if someone could tell me which one is the funnel introduction and which one is the attention getting, and explain to me your answer. Why do you call it a funnel introduction? And why do you call it an attention getting introduction? These lines, the ones you chose. Any answers, please? I'm sorry, I cannot open the chat box because it freezes. So I just prefer people.
The second one, sorry,
Yes.
The second one is attention.
Okay.
Because we draw the attention of the reader to tell the reader the way to have healthy life.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone with a difference of opinion or anyone who agrees, and why?
Hello.
Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, the first sentence, it was the worst trip I ever took. This is an attraction sentence.
Yes, yes, attention getting, very true. And why do you say that?
Because it started with a story.
Yes, yes, and it kind of shocked you. You're telling them it's the worst trip, so definitely you're going to want to read further on, yes.
The other one is a funnel.
Okay, funnel, because what are you zoning in on?
Because it started with kind of general sentence.
Right, right, exactly. Thank you so much. Very nice observation. Yes, it started with a general statement, a healthy life, and then it's kind of funneling in or zoning in like a telephoto lens on two things. So straight away, the reader knows that you're going to talk about eating healthy and exercising regularly. That's going to be the focus of your body paragraphs. Okay, so that's just a way of looking at it and how you can catch the reader's attention. Continuing with the introduction, sometimes thesis statements list subtopics that will be discussed further in the body, just like we talked about the previous thesis statement that talked about eating regularly and exercising regularly. So those were my two subtopics. And now the reader knows that I'm going to elaborate on that and give you more information on that in the following paragraphs. So this one I've taken from the Longman Writing Series, Book 4, this quote: "Young people in my culture have less freedom than young people in the US in their choice of where they live, whom they marry, and what their job is." So if I add subtopics for this one, just by looking at the thesis statement, can you tell me what are the subtopics the writer is going to be talking about? The main idea is having less freedom than people in the US. But what are the subtopics that the writer is going to elaborate on? Just by looking at the thesis statement, can you tell me? If you read the thesis statement, it gives you a clue as to which three subtopics they're going to write about.
They're going to write about marrying possibilities.
Yes.
And where they will live.
Yes.
And their possible jobs.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Excellent. Yes. So definitely you're going to be telling, the writer is going to be telling the reader more about where the young people will live and how they have less freedom as compared to people in the US, whom they're going to marry or how they're going to marry and what their job is going to be. So yes, they're going to dwell on that. Add subtopics to this thesis statement. Success is a result of doing the right things consistently. Can anyone give me ideas? I accept ideas from anyone about this thesis statement, about how you can elaborate and give me a few subtopics. Where do you think the writer is headed when he starts with a thesis statement like this? Success is a result of doing the right things consistently. What right things can he talk about when he's talking about success, consistent success? Yes, anybody? All right, I think I'll just go ahead and tell you what they could talk about. Mainly, I think they could talk about how you can achieve success by having a very balanced lifestyle, good eating habits, sleep habits, work-life balance, giving priority to the right things, and that will definitely then lead to success. So these are the different topics that could be talked about in the body paragraphs. Now, if you have any other ideas, you're still welcome to tell me before I move on to the next slide. Okay, so coming to the body of the essay now, the body consists of one or more paragraphs following the introduction. So definitely one or more. Usually it's never one, it's about two or more than that. Each paragraph supports the main idea of the essay by breaking it down into smaller ideas or topics. So the main idea of the essay is then broken down into subtopics. Each body paragraph consists of a topic sentence and several supporting sentences, and a concluding sentence closes each paragraph. Now, this is very important. Start off each paragraph by your topic sentence. So straight away, the reader knows very clearly where you're taking that paragraph, and then support it in the rest of the sentences, and then conclude it towards the end of the paragraph, and then move on to your new idea in the next paragraph. So the body paragraphs are usually the scaffolding of the building of the essay, just like you need a scaffold to make a building. So the body paragraphs are usually what you build up an essay with. It fleshes out the essay, it gives meat to the essay. The body develops the topic, it proves points, and here you can include facts, you can include examples, you can include details to support your ideas, and you can even include quotations if necessary. Of course, you must always credit the quotations. Is this an introductory paragraph sentence or a body paragraph sentence? The one that I have here. A, conducting exams in universities can have several advantages. And B, smoking can be very dangerous for health. Which one is an introductory paragraph and which one is a body paragraph? Can I have some opinions from you, please?
B, introductory, A, body paragraph.
Okay, very good. Why do you say that?
Because there is details in A.
Right, right. Yes, you've hit the nail on the head. Very, very true. Details are there in A, but it's taking you towards several advantages. So straight away, you know that they're going to write about the different advantages of having exams in universities. Whereas A is a more general statement. So it's more like an introductory paragraph statement. Smoking can be very dangerous for health. And then you go on to the other details about smoking. Coming to the conclusion of an essay, the conclusion of an essay leaves the reader with a positive impression, a sense of completeness, and the inclination to think more about the topic. So you leave the person with ideas, with thoughts. You don't just close it so that once they're finished with your essay, that's it. They close it and they're done with it. So it should be thought-provoking. It should make them think further and try to think about, is this true, what they said in the essay, or could there be this idea also? Could there be another side to this argument? So all of this, it should leave the person thinking. It also gives them a reminder of the main points. So it summarizes the thesis statement. It is usually a short single paragraph, the conclusion. You can make it longer, but to leave it more impact, it's preferable to leave it as a shorter paragraph. It should logically follow the body of the essay. So it should flow so smoothly that the person knows immediately that, okay, now I'm nearing the conclusion, and this is going to sum up all the ideas that were said up till now. It should not give any new information about the topic. That is very important. Do not leave the reader with new information. Yes, make it thought-provoking. Make it, let them think about the topic further, but don't give them any brand new information. And that should have been done in the body of your essay. The conclusion also signals the end of the essay. So you should have very good transitional signal words like finally, in conclusion, to summarize. So these are like road signs, just like a road sign will tell you stop or turn right or turn left. These words will tell you that the conclusion has come to an end. It leaves the reader with the final thoughts and an effective message. And it makes a prediction sometimes. Now, this is not always, but sometimes. It can suggest results. It can suggest consequences. It can recommend a solution, and it can call for action, or it can even quote an authority on the subject. Like, let's say you wrote about the environment pollution, and if you have a quote by WHO, the World Health Organization, what it thinks about environmental pollution, then you could put that down there, or you could even put some important statistic that they recommended. So what kind of concluding sentence is this from what we've learned of the above? Is it a result consequence? Is it a solution? Is it a call for action? If deforestation continues, our forests will die out. If money is concentrated with the rich, the poor will get poorer. So can you tell me what kind of concluding sentence is this? Is it a prediction? Is it a result or a consequence? You could have slightly different ideas because like the ideas are overlapping. So that's okay. Feel free to answer.
It appears consequence.
Which one, the first or the second? Okay, I can't hear whoever said their answer right now. But yes, I think if she meant the first one, if deforestation continues, our forests will die out. So it suggests results and consequences of something that is going to happen. If money is concentrated with the rich, the poor will get poorer. This is about something that is going to happen. So I think the answer over here is quite clear.
It's a prediction?
Definitely, yes. Thank you so much. Yes, it is a prediction. So if money is kept with the rich people, the poor are definitely going to get poorer. So this is a prediction. I've just given a slide over here on timed writing, which I thought is useful for all writers, and how to go about managing your time when you're writing an essay. So first of all, you need to read your prompt carefully. You choose your topic. If you're given a choice of a topic, 2 or 3, you understand and underline the keywords in the topic that you're given. This should take about 5 minutes. Again, this is going to vary from person to person. I don't say 5 minutes is the exact limit. Each person will have a different way of dealing with the time in this. Then you brainstorm ideas, you write your thesis statement, you make a rough outline, and you organize your ideas. So over here, this is just very rough writing. Your grammar and your spellings, you don't need to pay attention to. You just need to get your ideas down on paper as soon as possible before they run out of your mind. So this should take about 10 minutes roughly. Then you start writing your essay with your introduction, your body, and your conclusion. And this will take a chunk of the time, which will be about 25 minutes. Okay, so you start writing it and you keep improving it as you go along. Then to check essay errors and to correct mistakes in spelling, in punctuation, in subject-verb agreement, that should take about 10 minutes. And to edit and submit towards the end, you give yourself another 10 minutes because there may be things you left out, you missed while you were doing the first editing. And this will take us to a total time of about 60 minutes, which will get better with practice. So I've just taken an hour of essay writing to begin with as a trial way of timing your writing. So this is how you can organize your time, roughly. Usually they say essay, a 5-paragraph essay is very much like a hamburger essay. You have the introduction, which is the bun on top. Then you have your first point paragraph, which is the celery and the lettuce. Second point paragraph, which could be your tomatoes. If you want to make more paragraphs, you could have an onion paragraph, which could be your third paragraph. And then your final paragraph could be the meat of the essay, and followed by the conclusion, which would be the last bun. I really like this diagram because it's so colorful and it brings across the idea so clearly. So that's why I included it in my slide. Now, to give you a more clearer idea of what the different paragraphs will be like, we come to this. So I'll take you through an essay. This is the introduction, which is the general introductory statement and the thesis statement, and tells you roughly the order of the arguments. Then you come to paragraph 1, which is about 240 words. In fact, all the paragraphs are about 240 words. They're quite balanced. Your introduction would have been 120 words. So your first paragraph will have a topic sentence, and as you can see, the topic of the essay is media. There are many types of media which cannot be treated as all the same. Supporting ideas would be, there are many types of TV programs. You cannot assume they always have the same effect. People use them in many ways, and children use new platforms now, like online platforms, for watching different kinds of media. Then in paragraph 2, which is about the same length, your topic sentence can be, media can be actively used to achieve beneficial outcomes for children. Supporting ideas, you increase the range of TV tailored for children, and you give references by examples, and you say why you would want to do that so that children get the maximum educational benefit out of it. Educational, and it builds social skills. Now, how does it build social skills? Especially if they're doing a topic together with other classmates. Maybe they could have a class blog, put ideas down. So this would make a sharing of ideas, and it introduces diverse themes and topics through media. Body paragraph 3, the topic sentence would be inappropriate use of media that can result in harmful effects. So you can see paragraph 2 had advantages and paragraph 3 has disadvantages. Supporting ideas, parents cannot always guard against the content. You cannot always supervise children. It can create entitlement or peer pressure. Some peers or some of their students or friends may have more access to television or to different television programs, whereas others may not. So this can create a sense of complex and inferiority. And it creates also, it ends up having, the people end up having less contact with real people. And you can say how this happens, because then they can be hooked to the media and then they do not interact. It's a problem we're facing in the real world today. So it's very relatable. Then you have body paragraph 4, which dwells on the amount and the type of media, as well as the variety and the quality of content, which is very important. Supporting ideas would be studies find no harmful effects on an average child, but overexposure, especially to violence, can be harmful. The outcome can be positive when physical activity is also encouraged. So there should be a balance between how children use media and how they use the rest of their time. So as long as they're using it to a certain extent in a profitable way, it will be beneficial. In conclusion, you restate your thesis about media, different types and how they can be used. General conclusions, again, I think the writer can touch over here upon the fact that yes, it can be harmful, but only if it is overused, not if it's used in a more balanced way. And a final concluding statement could include like a prediction or an outcome or a result or a consequence statement, whichever the writer thinks has more impact and leaves the reader with more effect. And this could be about 120 words. So you can see this is quite a long essay dealing with a very current topic and quite a complicated topic, which can be presented in many ways. Lots of ideas to give there. What are the time order words we can use? So some of the time order words that we can use are for before. If you're stating time that has gone before, you can say earlier, formerly, in the past, not long ago, once, preceding this time, or previously, or prior to, or yesterday. When you want to say first, you say at first, at the beginning, at the onset, before, or comments, or before we commence, or before we start, embark, from this point, in the first place, starting with, and to begin. When you're going on to next, which will be for your following paragraphs, paragraph 2, 3, 4, after a few days, after a while, some of these can be used for narrative, some can be used for descriptive, depending on the type of essay you're writing. As soon as, consequently, following, henceforth, in time, in turn, not long after, right after, and you have the words which are second and third and first, shortly, since, soon, soon after, then, tomorrow. When you're reaching your end for your conclusion, you can say afterwards, at last, at the end, eventually, final or finally, in conclusion, in the end, last of all. And if you have to say sometimes in the middle, at times, from time to time, gradually, occasionally, periodically, rarely, seldom, and some of the time. So actually, we can go across it this way. First, before, next, sometimes, and then last. Now, just a word of caution over here. If you're using transition signal words, you don't have to use them in every sentence. That would be like overusing it. And then the essay can get quite boring to read it like that, with every sentence beginning with the transition signal words. So try to use them by spreading them out. Like a couple of sentences can be written without a transition word. And then the next one, the third one could be written with a transition. And then sentence 4 and 5, no transition. And then, so it depends upon the need, of course, and the frequency should be kept whenever it's necessary. So these are some very useful words that have been taken from the website EnglishGrammarHere.com. Some more words over here, and some of them may be repeated, so there will be a little overlapping. For addition, like you say, and as well as, additionally, along with, also, in addition, plus. For comparison, similarly, likewise, in the same way as well, to, in common. This will show similarity, of course. Then contrast, which will show differences, but, although, however, in contrast, instead, except, and on the contrary. To show time, currently, while, as, now, at first, later, next, and we did more of these in the previous slide. To show example, for instance, such as, specifically, primarily, in fact. To summarize, for conclusion, in brief, in short, to sum up, in the end, eventually, before long, ultimately. Now, please remember the summary words, or the words that are used for conclusion, can also be used at the end of each paragraph when you're giving a concluding sentence for each paragraph and you're summarizing the ideas. It could be used then. But a very strong concluding transition signal word should be used when you're doing the final conclusion. So the reader knows that I've come to the end. Linking words for essay writing, some more over here to give you a bit wider choice. And again, this is for lessonsforenglish.com, emphasizing words as a matter of fact, in fact, indeed. Reformulating. So when you're trying to explain an idea even more, giving more details. That is to say, in other words, namely, to put things differently. Summing up, in short, all things considered, to sum up in a nutshell. That's a nice one, in a nutshell. Something a little different that not everyone uses. Condition words, if this happens, this probably will not happen, unless, provided that, suppose, whether, as long as. Consequence words, this is that can be very useful for cause and effect essays. As a result, therefore, as a consequence, consequently, eventually, so, thus, that's why. Choice words, when you're giving one choice or the other, neither, nor, either, or, whatever, whenever, wherever, and whoever. Concession, when you're trying to give another idea, although this idea is good, but whatever, though, even though, despite, in spite of, apart from, except for, but for. When you're adding ideas, some of these I've mentioned before, you can say also, moreover, furthermore, in addition, besides, not only, but also. Explaining a cause of something that you've just given. As I've said before, this can happen. Because of this, something else can happen. Because of, insofar as, since, and the reason why. So let's go through the writing process again to give you a very general idea now, since we've gone into specifics. We start with the pre-writing stage. And like I said, the pre-writing would have brainstorming, getting down the ideas as quickly as you can. It's pre-writing also. Why do we call it pre-writing? Because you're trying to put down all your ideas as soon as they come into your mind so that you don't lose those ideas. And at this point, you're not paying much attention to the grammar, to the spelling, to the punctuation. Then you revise. You revise your ideas. You go back, you look, okay, this is good. I can include this. Maybe I should cross this out. I should leave this out. I should not write this. Maybe I can put this in the first paragraph and this in the second. Then you write, you start writing, and you start editing as you keep writing. You rewrite. This will be like a formal edit where you go back and look at everything and you say, all right, I think I need to trim this down. I need to expand this idea. Proofread it. After it's all been done, you proofread it to see, is there anything wrong over here, anything awkward? Can I improve anything? And finally, you publish it or you submit it. So in the pre-writing stage, you begin with a thought web or a word list, like I told you before. You brainstorm ideas, you decide on your purpose. Yes, not to forget your purpose and your audience, very important. You decide on your format, you decide on the tone of your writing, which should always be academic and objective style of writing. Then you write it out with the details using your ideas. You can make improvements later at this stage. Then you revise your first draft, preferably with a partner. And it's always good to have a fresh pair of eyes look at what you've written. So give it to a colleague or a friend, someone who's also doing it with you, or maybe she's working on something else, not the same thing that you are doing. So then she can get a very good idea of how you need to improve. Pay attention to your vocabulary at this point, your content, your organization, details you need to change, you can move and you can add. Rewrite it, including the changes you identify, and now you proofread it or your second draft for any mistakes in spelling, grammar, punctuation, and mechanical errors. This stage is extremely important because you do not want to give up an essay or a piece of writing that has mistakes in it. So it needs to be filtered through. You need to see it, you need to improve on it. And now you're ready to publish, but remember, you can always go back and forth between these stages until you actually give it in, because after that, there's no looking back. You can't take it back. So between these stages, it's basically up to you what you would like to do. Sometimes it's also good to write something and to leave it for a while. If you find that your mind is getting stuck or you have a block, then you can come back to it later and give it a fresh look and then try to rewrite or add to it or review with it. When we're getting information, where do we access it from? From resources like the text, any texts or any books, audiovisual resources, electronic media. So there's a wealth of information out there nowadays. So we can take it from anywhere, depending on the fact that they deal with the topic that we have in mind. Mind map our ideas in the rough draft. You plan, you organize, you write, and you check. Maybe you'll have to take out some ideas over here. Maybe they don't look that good. You thought they looked very good when you read it or when you listened to a video, but now when you've actually written it down, it doesn't relate to your topic so much. So then you leave it out. At this point, it's a good idea to read the question carefully, to read it, to understand it, read again. Of course, you've read it before, but it's a good idea to read it again. And you start your writing, your rewriting, and your checking. You expand your draft, you edit it. You check your work and you say, is my question answered? Again, go back and read the question. So each time you read the question, it brings your focus back. So if your focus happened to wander, you come back to the topic at hand. So it helps to keep you very focused. And can I make any improvements? And then you finalize the draft, you cite your sources. Very important to cite your sources. Please acknowledge what you've taken from somewhere else, because otherwise it's considered plagiarism if you're passing it off as your own work. So this is very, very important. Why I've approached the same things from different angles is because people will approach it from different angles. All of us are different. Some of us may like to do the second step first or the third step first, and we go about it in different ways. That's why I try to present it to you also in different ways. And of course, the last step then would be submit. So to put it in a nutshell, writing in an academic way is being very critical and analytical. You have to analyze all your points. And if it allows you to be critical, yes, because every essay you may not be able to be critical, you have to make use of the subject-specific language. So the language that is suitable for your topic or your subject should be the one used. Again, keeping your audience and your purpose in mind. Do not use very complicated terms if you feel your audience will not be able to understand it. Be very precise in your meaning, be very clear, use the words that are going to clarify your points. Remain as objective as possible. So do not get subjective in an academic piece of writing. Cite your sources to support your position. So where did you get these ideas from? Where did they come from? How did you get them? So remember to cite all your sources. What do I need to be careful about? So there's so much that I have to write, so much that I need to be, to pay attention to. So what do I really need to be careful about? First of all, language and register. Register is actually the level of formality. So there should be a more formal register in an essay type of writing. You cannot get colloquial, you cannot use slang expressions, you cannot get informal. So it should be formal piece of writing. In passive, academic writing avoids emotional language and slang. Okay, so not a lot of emotional language. In fact, keep it to a minimum, only if the subject demands it. And slang, of course, should also be avoided because it's not proper academic writing. Keep it objective. It avoids personal pronouns and does not get very subjective. So you and I would not come into it unless you are making a prediction that would be right at the end, and that would be only for certain kinds of essays. Use your evidence. All facts and theories should be referenced. You can use the standard system. There are different systems for this, which you can go into and check out, because I cannot go into details in that over here. There's the Harvard system, the APA system, the Chicago citation method, where they give the author, the date, and footnotes, and you can include a bibliography of everything you have read to be on the safe side. It should have a clear overall structure. The academic writing requires a very clear structure of introduction, like we said before, body, summary, and conclusion. Clear sentence structure, because academic writing uses very clear, effective sentences. You should avoid overlong sentences, excessive clauses, very roundabout ways of expressing things, like a sentence begins with an idea, and by the time you finish the sentence, you don't know where the idea took you. You wandered off at a tangent to another idea. Then it's very unclear, because if it's not going to be clear to you, it's not going to be clear to the reader. Make sure it's concise and precise. It should avoid any kind of padding. So don't use descriptive words too much, overuse of too many descriptive words, don't be repetitive. I just gave you a lot of transition words, a lot of words that you can use for different instances. So there's a lot of variety in the language, and you can use many different words. You do not have to repeat the same words, and unnecessary adjectives should be avoided. Some common mistakes that people do when they're writing essays, and which we can look out for. Sometimes you fail to address the question. Now, this sometimes happens with students a lot. When they are under exam pressure, They're tense, they're worried, they're nervous, and they read the question and they read it so fast that they read it wrongly or they interpret it wrongly and they don't address the correct question. So the whole essay then is off the topic. And sadly, if it's off the topic, then they stand to lose almost all the marks. And we don't want something like that happening. So when we are doing it or when we are telling our students, this is very important, read the question. In fact, I would always say, read the question again and again. It helps to bring you back to the topic, keeps you in focus. When you don't have a clear introduction, so straight away, you're not catching the attention of the reader. So you started off with either a very boring introduction or a very ordinary introduction that does not catch the attention of whoever's reading it. So you've lost the reader right from the beginning. Not having a clear argument. If there is an argumentative essay, then you're kind of beating around the bush. You're humming and hawing about what your stand is. You're not taking a clear stand when it's very obvious that you have to. Or maybe you're just giving a persuasive essay or argumentative essay in which you're presenting both the ideas for and against, but you have to end by giving your viewpoint. So that should be very clear in the beginning as well as in the end. Describing rather than analyzing. Now, describing is okay in a descriptive essay, but in other essays, you should try to be more analytical. So you should try to analyze, break up ideas and points and present it. Not using reliable references. So let's say you use references, but they're not very reliable. So you need to be very careful about what you're using because there's so much of stuff on the internet these days. Quoting without understanding. So you wrote a quote, you quoted it, you acknowledged who wrote the quote and everything, but you don't really understand it. So you stand the risk of the reader or the teacher calling you up and asking you, what does this mean? To see if you really understood what you wrote. So you have to understand what you're writing. Inflated and overly elaborate style, like I mentioned in the previous slide, don't keep it very elaborate. Don't keep it very, very heavy, the language, so that the reader loses focus completely. You should be clear and they should be clear about what they're reading. Not supporting statements with evidence, especially if you're giving an essay where statements have to be written, where you're analyzing something, you must have evidence to support your ideas. That's very important. Incorrect referencing, very important. Do not reference something and attribute it to someone when it's actually someone else who's given that quote. That shows that you didn't do your research properly. Recommendations are not drawn from your analysis. So you wrote a full essay about different things, but your recommendations at the end do not have a lot of connection with what you wrote before. Conclusions are not forward-looking. So if you're going to conclude, you have to give like a more forward-looking, a more predictive conclusion to show the reader that they know where you are headed with your ideas. Making assumptions, so don't just make assumptions thinking that you are right in saying that this is going to happen. You have to, again, support it with evidence. And by the time the conclusion comes, the evidence should have already been given there. For data collection, for an essay, your data should be collected in a proper manner so that everything, you authenticate everything and you check to see if everything is correct. This is an IELTS opinion essay structure, just to give you a very rough idea. And it's pretty much what we've been doing so far, the points that we've covered so far. Introduction, you paraphrase the question. That means you rewrite the question in your own way and you state your opinion because this is an opinion essay. Body paragraph 1, you give the main idea with explanation and examples. Body paragraph 2, again, another main idea with the explanation and examples to support the second main idea. And your conclusion, which sums up and restates your opinion. So basically, if you follow this also for IELTS, you're pretty good with it. 10 tips to get your essays to write great essays. And this has been given by Joe Bunting. He's written the book called The Right Practice, and you can see his picture down below there. Sorry. So he tells us some wonderful tips, and some of these may have been covered already. An essay is just a short story about conflict between different ideas and the change perceived in these different ideas. So you're presenting different ideas and what are the changes that you're recommending. Number 2, ask yourself, how can I have the most fun writing this? So remember, if you're having fun writing it, the person reading it is also going to enjoy it. Number 3, what do I find interesting about the subject? What surprises me the most? So what is very interesting about the subject? Did I put it down? Did I include it? and what surprises me about this subject. So if it surprises me, it'll also surprise the reader. Are you feeling overwhelmed? So do you feel, oh, I've put too much information, or I've put information that doesn't relate to each other? So write 5 sentences and take it from there. So start with 5 sentences and take it from there, so you don't feel like there's too much to do. Research well so you can write well. Point number 6, write the body first, introduction second, and the conclusion last. Now, of course, this is Joe Bunting's suggestion. It may not work for everyone, but he's probably written it because it works for him. So he says, I would write the body first, then I would write the introduction second, and then I would write the conclusion last. So maybe this makes it clearer for him to be able to write the introduction second. Instead of answering the question what and why, answer the question how, because how is a more open-ended question. It will leave you with more thoughts and with more ideas. Give yourself the freedom to move around the topic, okay? So write down a lot of ideas around the topic and edit later, because you never know which ideas are good and which ideas are bad when they're coming to you. But later you can edit and choose and pick. Check the words and use no cliches. So try not to use words that are very commonly used by many people. Try to use different words. And you can use Wikipedia for background research and for citing sources. Of course, some of these points you may agree with, some of them you may not agree with, but these are his tips that he's given in the book, The Right Practice. These are some quotes that I've included on essay writing. I found them quite interesting. The scariest moment is always just before you start. And I think all of you will agree with me. This happens even to seasoned writers, people who are excellent writers who've got a lot of bestsellers on their list. When they face a blank page, they say there's a writing block and they can't get any further. But once you start writing, then the ideas begin to flow. And Dan Pointner says, if you wait for inspiration to write, you're not a writer, you're a waiter. So yes, so you just can't wait and say, I'm not getting the inspiration to write, I can't do it, and procrastinate and wait and wait and wait. So just get down to it. Once you get down to it, then the ideas will begin to flow. And I like this quote the best. It's from my favorite author, Stephen King. And hopefully there are people in the audience who also read Stephen King. I think he's brilliant. He has very good ideas. And he says, write with the door closed, but rewrite with the door open. Now, can you tell me what he means over here? Does he literally mean the door of a room, close the door and write, and then rewrite with the room's door open? Does he mean that, or is he meaning something else? Any ideas? Any ideas from anyone? What does he mean? Write with the door closed, but rewrite with the door open.
Maybe thinking, when we stop thinking,
Yes.
or we stuck with our thoughts, maybe.
Right, right. So when you're writing with the door closed, it's maybe you're just very closed in the idea of the topic and you're just writing down all the points. But when you're rewriting, you should open up your mind even more so that more ideas come into your mind. Your imagination runs free and you're able to get more creative and more imaginative with the things that you plan to write. So I thank you so much, all of you, for attending. And I hope I'm leaving you with some good tips and pointers about how to do essay writing. I really enjoyed giving the presentation. Hope all of you enjoyed it too. I welcome any questions if you have them.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yes. Is it possible to email us your slides if you don't mind?
I think these will be put up on the site, and we do have a YouTube channel also, the Writing Center.
But
So
what site? What site? Excuse me. What site?
I think they will tell you towards the end. I'm not too sure about it myself.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any questions before we end this excellent presentation? No questions?
I think they wanted to know where the presentation would be. So if you could
Yeah,
please tell them.
actually, as we always mention and remind you, dear brothers and sisters, all the workshops recordings for about 3 years can be found on our YouTube channel. I'm attaching and posting the link for you, YouTube channel, and you can find all the recordings. But for the slides, and if the presenter, if Ms. Sajidah, for example, does not mind, and she
Yes.
can forward the slides to me or to Dr. Basim,
Yes.
and we can give it to anybody who is interested in receiving these excellent and valuable slides, actually. So
No problem.
it's up to the presenter, actually, usually.
Yes.
Yeah.
Not a problem, inshallah.
If it's not a problem, just forward it to me or email it to me or Dr. Basim, and inshallah we can forward it to everybody. I'll give you my email and Dr. Basim's email, inshallah.
Inshallah. Okay.
And any questions before we say thank you to Ms. Sajidah for the outstanding presentation? Any questions, any explanations, comments?
Anything you would like to ask me? Any comments you would like to make?
Okay, then. Thank you very much, Ms. Sajidah. As always, you're always, mashallah, outstanding with very impressive, valuable, interesting, and useful presentations as usual. We always learn from your presentations. So, inshallah, after filling these 3 forms, gentlemen, 1 form for evaluation, and looking at the YouTube channel and take a note if you like it, and for the link making appointments, please take a note of these things. Inshallah, you'll get the certificates within 24 to 48 hours, inshallah. The evaluation form is not working just fine. You know that there is a problem today with all the social media, and the WhatsApp is not working, and a lot of other things are not working. So if it does not work at all, inshallah, we'll see if we can solve the problem and send it to you later on. We'll check and see, inshallah. Thank you all for your attendance. Thank you all for your interaction, your
brother, the
Yes.
evaluation form is working.
Working. Great, thank you. Good
yeah,
news.
it is working. The evaluation form is working. I'm working on it right now. Yeah.
Great, thank you very much. So for those who are having problems, just keep trying, please. Keep trying.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone, for attending. And thank you. I really enjoyed that. Thank you
very
everybody.
much. We learned a lot, Ms. Sajidah, mashallah.
Thank
you very much.
Thank you so
Inshallah,
much.
we'll see you tomorrow again for another excellent workshop by Mr. Ridwan Levy, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. Have a good night and enjoy it, inshallah.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Very much. Thank you.